Welcome, everybody, to one of the Irrational Passions Viewpoints. This will probably be a Viewpoints, I suppose. A PAX discussion with Jarrett Green and I. How you doing, Jarrett?
Hello, Scott.
How you doing?
I'm okay. How are you?
Doing well. Enjoying the nice fall weather here in Michigan. It's finally kind of cooler, so that's been nice. But we are here to talk about 30XX, which Jarrett and I got recently a chance to play a brand new PAX build of and sit down and talk with Chris King, the head of Battery Staple Games, and is kind of in charge of 30XX and previously 20XX. So what did you think of your time playing the demo and what you've experienced so far?
Well, I played a bunch of the single player demos since our co-op was kind of a little buggy. Nothing changed the experience too much. Like, I still got it, right? It's still Mega Man.
Yeah.
It's Mega Man X. Or Mega Man X4 is going to be super specific. But I think the wrinkle of it being procedurally generated does add something that is more than just what feels like a Mega Man fan game, right? This is clearly a more developed experience that's attempting to take that gameplay sort of method and mentality into something more modern. And I think that's pretty cool.
And just to make clear, the game was buggy because we were trying to do co-op via remote play, not because the game itself was rough. So it wasn't a knock on that. It was just we were streaming in Discord, and then we were connecting to each other. So it was our connections were doing a lot of things.
We're doing big bandwidth things.
Yeah, big bandwidth things. Now, had you played 20XX before this?
I want to say no, but I after playing, I think I have. I remember the 20XX conversation. I'm pretty sure I didn't play it all the way through, but I do remember it.
Yeah, I was a big fan of 20XX. I picked it up on PC originally, and then when it came to Switch, I picked that up as well and have had a good time with it. But this is now my third time checking out 30XX, originally at PAX East, the one game showcase earlier this year, right after it was announced. Then at Gamescom, I sat down with Chris and talked to him about the Gamescom demo, and now a third time with this PAX demo. And I'm continuously impressed with the art in this game. The new area that they had specifically for this PAX build was a place called Echo Cave, which was like it reminded me a lot of Crystal Snail from X2 stage. So lots of like crystalline structures and like mining like areas. It's deep cave, but in the background you could see in the distance like cities that were made out of subwoofers. It was really cool. But yeah, like you said, this game just feels and plays just like Mega Man X.
I do like the visually. I think it's a pretty big step.
Yeah,
ahead of 20XX. I think as 20XX definitely had its own style. It felt more like a game that is trying to look like Mega Man, where this kind of does feel like it came into its own, both just like the pixel art of both Nina and Ace and the, like you were describing, the worlds themselves like seem a bit more creative and a bit more unique than just like the kind of, techno dungeons that 20XX kind of was chock full of.
Yeah. It's exciting to see, and right on the heels of PAX, and though we didn't get to actually play it, was the announcement of Mega Mode, which turns the normally completely randomly generated order and level structure of 30XX and its predecessor 20XX, and basically locks in 8 levels. Like, The stage layout assigns them each, it looks like doors, kind of like a similar Mega Man style game, where you can tackle them in any order, but when you die or respawn, it doesn't randomize the levels. So this seems very cool. I'm anxious to see how it plays and if they maybe adjust or make boss weapons more impactful against other bosses, kind of like in your traditional Mega Man tree.
Right.
One aspect that we touched on, and I think you brought up actually, Jarrett, was the speedrunning community aspect, and that Chris was surprised that the speedrunning community didn't grab on to 20XX as much as the team thought they would.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this mega mode will drastically help that.
I think that's exactly what they were looking for, right? Like, because the speedrunning community of Mega Man games is actually it's active and pretty competitive and pretty busy.
Yeah.
And I think part of what makes it so is that Mega Man games are all, the structure of Mega Man games is one that is hard set, even though, you know, there's always the sort of options of how you tackle bosses and like the way in which you navigate the 8 levels. There's all the same 8 levels and all the bosses do the same thing. So you can choose and optimize your runs based on like a set of rules that stays the same. And as you know, plenty of roguelikes have speedrunning communities. There's just like there's always an understanding that you'll get bad runs, and that can make or break a community, like how much someone wants to put up with a bad run, or like how often a bad run will show up, based on like the many ways you can finagle around the randomness factor. And I feel like maybe 20XX didn't have enough ways to make a bad run good, or you know, a bad run was so bad you couldn't make a good speed run out of it. And sometimes just design wise it's very difficult to get around that. And that they've kind of like this mega mode approach does two things. It makes a more rigid experience for people who don't want to play a roguelike but do want to play a Mega Man like. But also it gives this other community who wants to, you know, try their hardest to break it, to give them like a seed and a stage they can just kind of play and play it as hard as possible. I think that's exactly what the speedrunning community needs.
Yeah, that being able to share seeds, level structures, stuff like that, that will be huge. I think that will drastically make this so much more of a fun racing game, speedrunning game, all sorts of things, which has grown drastically in popularity on Twitch over the past 5 or so years. So I'm very excited to try that out, and I was a little bummed that hasn't been introduced yet into the demo, but I understand why. But I'm looking forward to, that's probably one of the aspects I'm looking forward to the most, in addition to all the other levels and things.
Yeah, I think this is a good opportunity to see, to really let this is like the first, in my opinion, I mean, 20XX was like literally the first attempt to make this a thing. This is like really an attempt to see if it works on its own. As we kind of touched on in our talk, this 20XX kind of got a bit of a boon thanks to the sort of jabber around My Number 9, since they came out the same year. My Number 9 had been a thing for, you know, years before that, but there was, you know, two ways that 20XX really could benefit from, you know, being a Mega Man game in the shadow of a big Mega Man game by, you know, the creator of Mega Man. It's that game is so good that people want to play more Mega Man games, or that game is so disappointing that people just need to play something that makes them feel good. And they kind of got a little bit of that second one. There hasn't been like a flush of Mega Man like games since, really. I mean, Dead Cells in a way, but that kind of hasn't been the case. So I think they are still, you know, the pioneer in that particular small corner of the subgenre. And I think this is a really good opportunity to see how strong that can really get.
Yeah. It'll be anxious to see how this can, because it doesn't have the Mighty Number 9 stuff, how it stands mostly on its own. But like they said, with this being such a strange year, one of the interesting aspects that Chris touched on was how normally developers, like even back when they released 20XX, when they put a lot of faith in the numbers of wish lists, like how many people have put it on a wish list, and how with 2020 being such a strange year, it's hard for developers like indie devs to really put much faith behind the numbers they're seeing with wish lists. So normally if they were getting the numbers on their wish list like they are this year, they'd be like, holy crap, we're knocking it out of the park. But now it's like, we're not so sure. And I think he gave an estimate that for every, you'll have like 2 people that have it on their wish list, but only one will actually go ahead and buy it. Or maybe for every 3 people that have it on their wish list, 1 person will go through and buy it. I don't quite remember the exact amount he gave, but it will be interesting. And I hope this game succeeds. I think it should succeed.
Or like half.
Yeah.
I think it should too. And it like he also mentioned, it's kind of more difficult to know how even accurate those old sort of metrics are, because way more people are home wishlisting games. To be fair, it might be more accurate this way because you have way more data, but that might mean every second wish list now is actually every 4th wish list will actually buy. So it's tough to know. And that kind of, those kind of stats that we used to project success no longer exist, or are no longer as accurate as we thought they were. So it's hard to know what will make this game, blow up, if it even is. Like, I don't know that there's any way to know if your game will like really take off and blow up, but I think there are metrics to determine whether you're playing within your means and can make a successful thing out of it. And it seems like Chris and co have that in sight.
Yeah. And in terms of it being a roguelike, you and I are probably 2 of the bigger longtime roguelike fans here at IP. Mike has come around. He's loving roguelikes as well recently. But you and I have talked a bit in the past about our love of roguelikes. Where does the concept and like execution of 30XX kind of rank on you in terms of your interest in roguelikes? Like, are you interested in this, or are you kind of like, yeah, it's cool, I don't know if I'm going to spend much time with it or pick it up when it comes out? Like, where are you currently?
I think if something made me interested in it, it would be that it's a roguelike. Like, if this was just a straightforward Mega Man-like game with a clear beginning and end, handcrafted levels, and no variance in that way, I don't know that I would be interested. But I think knowing that this is more of a game that you play the systems of instead of like the levels laid out for you of, that is more interesting to me when it comes to this. I think most games can be made interesting when you add a procedurally generated element. I don't think every game needs to be, and I think there are a lot of games that are trying to live in a wave that is clearly like overcrowded and flooded. I think 30XX is a great example of a game that is living in a space that actually doesn't have a whole lot of exposure. Like, I think there's a lot of games that are procedurally generated action like side scrollers, but not a lot of them play like this.
Yeah.
And very few of them have gotten like super big. So I think there's always an opportunity for another one to get big, and that is a space where there's as much as there is a lot of iteration and a lot of recreation of similar concepts. I think there's also a space that has plenty of room to grow outside of that, and a game that has like set its own rules, where we're trying to make the most Mega Man experience we can that's also a procedurally generated action game. There's lots of Mega Man sort of concepts to take from and apply here, and I think 30XX as like a lesson learned from 20XX and like an attempt to step forward and push like this kind of subgenre application forward. There's a lot of opportunity here. I don't know that we saw all of that opportunity in this demo, but in some of the things we're talking about, I kind of felt more and more interested to see where this is going. So I'm very interested to see how this game progresses as we get closer to launch. I think I need to personally see more before it's like a definite pickup on launch, but I'm confident there will be more to see.
Yeah. For me, I think the aspect, I played a lot of 20XX, so I'm confident in their ability to deliver like a really fun title. The thing that I really enjoy most about this series specifically is how playing online with friends, not through the strange remote play roundabout way we did, but when you're actually connected to another person, playing peer-to-peer, or not peer-to-peer, excuse me, just playing together. This is so much fun just playing multiplayer, like co-oping a Mega Man X game. And that was one of the aspects I loved about 20XX. Like, they nailed the level design and the Mega Man X feel to it, but what really set this game apart, the original game apart, was to be able to play as a friend, like do a Mega Man X Zero like team up. So I'm excited to see how they continue to flesh out here with this game, now that both Ace and Nina have dramatically different powers from each boss, whereas opposed to in the original game, they got the same boss drops that behave the same way. Each character behaves and feels much more unique in this game, which I'm very excited to see, and how those play off each other in multiplayer settings. And in our conversation, my conversation with Chris during the Gamescom demo, that they are very much looking into adding more characters. So, because there were 2 additional characters you could play as in 20XX later on after release, and that they're very much looking into continuing to develop and release characters as 30XX goes on, and if people want and things. So I'm anxious to see where they go from that point as well.
Yeah, I think that's an opportunity too. 2 characters that play like characters that have been playing the same way for 20 years is one thing. Part of the expansion of this sort of concept would really lean on an ability to like introduce other kinds of characters that can interact with like the whole Mega Man motif differently.
Yeah,
I mean, plus that with plus co-op. You've kind of got a recipe for all types of interactions and behaviors that you wouldn't get from any other game like this.
Oh, definitely. Completely agree with you on that one. I don't think there's a release date. I think they're looking to have early access this year, but don't quote me on that, with a final release at a later time. So it was cool to know that they are already considering and looking into their options on what platforms to launch on, in addition to PC, whether or not they'll do a single platform launch, just PC and a single console, PC and multiple consoles. That's still very much in the air. But I'm glad they are considering and kind of starting to weigh those options and see what would work best for them.
Mm-hmm. And with new consoles launching, it's kind of difficult to know where you can actually fit in. It's not going to be cheap to get on one of those.
Yeah. So, but I'm anxious to see where this game continues to develop, and what else cool stuff we can look forward to. So.
Oh, I'm sure, especially you, will have the finger on the pulse.
Oh yeah. You know it. Mega Man X is my favorite game of all time. So this game is so my jam, because big roguelike fan, big Mega Man X fan, love the co-op. So I will definitely be my pulse is on this game. I've got my finger on the pulse. So, but thanks for joining me, Jarrett, and just giving a little discussion about this game we saw.
No problem. Happy to see it. Happy to talk about it.
Yeah, good to chat with you. Good to chat with you as always. So, if you like this viewpoint, be sure to check us out at irrationalpassions.com. You can also find us on Twitter at irrationalpod, on YouTube at youtube.com/irrationalpassions, and on Twitch at twitch.tv/irrationalpassions. And until next time, everybody, stay safe, stay healthy, be kind to each other. Have a good one.